Today I'm going to talk to you about the second part that I had promised you when I said get a second cup of coffee or maybe a big one like me or get a cup of tea, whatever it is that you drink, to go ahead and sit down and learn with me. Learn how we're supposed to be. And I always say that I teach you things from my life or I'd like to share things with you from my life because if I've been able to do it, you can do it too. And this is something that I'm sharing with you, not because it sounds beautiful. I read it in a book one day, I read it in a blog, or somebody told me and it sounded great, or or when I was studying my degree in psychology, I learned it, and I think we should do this. No, I'm telling you this because this is what I do for my life. This is what I practice, and this is also what I teach the parents for the past 3 years. And both male and female have come back to me and said when they've done it, hey, there was a change. There was a different reaction. It works. It really does. If you notice in the Word of God, every verse it's about you. It's not about them. It's about changing you. It's about your walk with God. It's about what He can teach you, what God can teach you to be a better person. I'm going to leave you with a verse, Matthew 7:5. Now, I'm not going to read it to you. I'm not going to look it up. You look it up. And then you understand what I'm trying to say. Matthew 7:5. That's it simple. And it's true. It's God saying it. It's not me. It's not Yenni. It's God. So I try to use that. And one of the most difficult situations of individual that I have to talk to is the father of my son because there's drugs involved. And that makes it even more difficult. I see it as it is. He is a narcissistic person, and he admits it now. So it's very difficult. But yet, I am able to have pretty healthy conversation, as in what needs to be said is said, and boundaries are respected. And I would say if I'm able to with that situation, anybody can't. And if you need to talk to me privately, what works and what I mainly do there, feel free to do it because I know those situations are very difficult and you don't openly share with anybody, and you shouldn't. You have to be very smart and protective of yourself. And if I'm sharing this with you, is because I want you to connect with the words I'm saying and to know that I've been there. And mind you, this can be used with any difficult person. It could be a boss, it could be a coworker, it could be a friend or somebody who was your friend. It could be a sibling, it could be a parent, it could be a child, anybody. Even a member from church. It can be anybody, male or female. Because what I'm telling you is what you'll read anywhere, but it's about doing it. It's about getting the verses from God and letting them be true. Because you can read them all the time. You can read verses and say, God, that sounds great. I should do it. But another thing is to practice that and to implement it into your life. And I've been able to have had to do it many times. But my exes, I think, are probably the most difficult situations because they both hurt me. And with my first ex, I had to make a choice. I wanted to talk to them to release them and to heal. It was part of my healing that I knew I had to do. And I wanted to have this conversation with them. And it was about a year later, maybe a year and a half later, after I left. When I left, I came out of the hospital. So it was a very hard situation. So I knew at that moment I needed to go through healing. It wasn't the right moment. But once it came to that day that he asked me, may I speak to you? Because of the boundaries that I had made, he was respectful to me. And thank God that he did go through anger management while I was going through healing too. And he had left California. I live in California. And he had left California and he, decided to leave. And so I went through the healing by myself. And I did that. But I'm glad I did because I was able to then speak to him when he asked. And I went to New York by myself. I was on a trip. And then my mom and my cousin met me over there. And we turned into, a girls' trip. And he's in New Jersey now. So he saw, because he always tried to maintain some kind of contact, or he tries to, but never speaks to me. That's part of my boundary. But so in this case, he did, though, with respect. And I knew why. I knew we had to have the conversation. So I said, yes, let's do that. Let's meet. And so we did with my mom and my cousin there because, number one, safety. You have to have safety. And no matter who it is, in a situation when you need to talk to them, safety comes first, your safety. God would not want you to put yourself in any situation where you can get hurt and you're aware of. So, no. So it was very important that they were there, and they were, and they were in the next room, but they were there the entire time, and we ended up talking for 12 hours maybe. There was so much to talk about. This was a marriage of 5 years. During those 5 years, there was a lot of pain and abuse and hitting on a monthly basis or weekly basis. So it was a lot to talk about. It was a lot to bring to the table. And I wanted to forgive them. And that's part of the facing. But I had to prepare myself for that conversation. So I'm telling you this because I've been in situations like that. And I had to ask for forgiveness myself too. Because a marriage is of two people. So, being a daughter of God, I knew, things like I knew probably I should have walked away a long time ago. I should have never entered, actually, that marriage. So I did have to ask for forgiveness. And we ended up things in a healthy way. Goodbye. But in a positive way. I bless you. And I'm glad I was able to say that and bless his walk and bless his life. Whatever he chooses to do, he's chosen to do now. And that's not my care. All I know is that up to that point, I needed to bless them and have that conversation. And with my current ex, I have to continue it because we have a child together. And I always hear parents that sometimes they have that parent who wants to have a relationship with their child, and they always block it. And it bothers me because I say, no, put your relationship aside, your bitterness aside. Don't block it. If I don't, I just put a lot of boundaries. So there's a lot of boundaries that are put in order for them to have that communication. And even if, sadly, because of those boundaries that I put there, he's only able to have small communication and very rare, I mean like 6 months rare. But even if it lasts 10 minutes and he comes clean and good, I allow it because I don't want bitterness in my heart or in my child's heart. And it's important for him to know where he comes from and to know that in the future he will know choices you make can ruin your entire life. And I want him to know that, but in a healthy way. So I am not going to poison my child. So again, if I'm able to do that, you can do this with any coworker, with any boss who's, a headache, with any sibling who is just difficult to talk to, or even with your spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend who you're trying to learn to have better communication. This is very important because it's in the Word of God. It's not just Yenni saying it. And it's first thing I say is take time to heal. Take time to heal whatever it is that has hurt you. Maybe they said something that was very painful. Take time to take your emotions to God and take your emotions out of the way. And again, this is biblical. Ecclesiastes 5:2 says, do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty. What does that mean? Again, it means nothing if I just read it and say, God, yes, that's who I want to be. It means everything when you start implementing it into your life. So say, you know what, I need a moment. I just need a moment to not get my emotions, not be passionate. So say, I need a moment, be smart. Say, I want to be a better person, so I need a moment to respond to you, or I need a moment to reply to this. Maybe it's an email they sent you, or maybe it's a text they sent you. I don't know, in this technical world, there's a lot of texts that get thrown out there, and be smart. Say, before I reply to this, I've had parents call me, or parents text me, and so I don't mind guiding because I know that it's helped me. I've had my own mentors myself, and I tell them, take a moment. I think for this, you maybe need a couple of days. Take that time and then apply. Because there's a lot of verses that say in the Word of God to give him your pain, give him your sorrow, give him your struggles. But let me leave you just with one that I love. Because it's very simple. It says Psalms 55:22, cast your cares unto the Lord, and he will sustain you. Your cares, cast them, give them, put them unto the Lord. And your cares because you care about yourself. You want to be respected. You don't want to get hurt. So he understands that. And he just says, put them onto me. So again, let that time go by, whether it is 1 hour, whether it is 1 day. But it's not that you're going to be in anger the entire time. It's that you're learning to really let it go. But don't take forever either. That's not what the Word of God says. The second thing is acceptance. Accept things. Accept situations. I'm going to remind you what God told me. Isaiah 43:18. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. The moment something happens, the moment something is said, it's no longer the present. It literally becomes the past at that moment. But yet your actions in the present, right after it happens, is what's going to dictate how your future is. And God is, it's very poignant about don't dwell on it. Accept it. You can choose to change, but you cannot change another person. So accept them. Now, if it's causing you abuse or pain or anything like that, I always say, of course, you're not going to stay there. Even in employers, like in an employment setting, there is, HR department or human resources. So there's things that you could do in a smart way, in a legal way. Even in the world, there's police department, there's lawyers, there's lawsuits, things that you do in a smart way. Do it. Of course, the Word of God says that, He is our lawyer, right? So of course you do, but I'm talking about how you approach things, how you, even in situations, maybe you're in a restaurant and somebody's being difficult. Maybe they are discriminating you. Nowadays, it happens a lot. I can relate to that. Maybe because of my looks. I am Hispanic, but I also look Arabic. And I tend to like to walk, when I go to an elegant restaurant, I like to go with a scarf. So, yeah, there's discrimination around nowadays. And, again, it's how you walk out of there, how you treat that conversation. How do you respond to them? Do you respond with hate, or do you respond with a really smart, well thought out reply? That says a lot. Now, if this is who they are, have you even prayed for them? Because we go and complain, and we complain to our friends. We go home and we're like, oh God, they're so difficult. Have you blessed their life? Have you prayed over them? Have you prayed for God to give them answers? Maybe their boss is just frustrated because they have a lot of responsibilities. Not to excuse somebody offending you, but again, it's part of understanding and acceptance. Have you noticed that the last step in mourning is acceptance? Mind you, in mourning, it's about leading to healing. And it's literally the last step, acceptance. So it's very important to just let yourself heal. And while you're doing that, maybe you haven't achieved that yet. It's okay, but number 3, be polite. No matter what, since the very beginning, be courteous, be pleasant. Manners are such a beautiful quality to possess, and you give them up. Nobody takes them away from you. You give them up. So how do you treat strangers? How are you with the cashier? Now, with this person who's difficult to you, how are you? Are you the same way that you treat strangers? Or you're very pleasant and you're courteous? Or are you obnoxious and you're giving them the same thing back? For what? Mind you, I remind you, remember the fruit of the Spirit. Again, if you have not seen the video, maybe you should go back and see it. Because, again, it's about you and choosing to be the polite, the courteous, the pleasant person in the situation. And if it's with a spouse, ex-spouse, the same way. Choose to be the pleasant in the conversation. Guide the conversation. That's my number 4. Get your thoughts together before you even speak to them. Especially if you're working in that place every day, you have enough experience to know, okay, I know how they act in this situation. If it's the end of the month and they have to report and record things, so okay, I know how to get stressful. Well, then get a script. And if it's with a co-parent, it's very important, practice. I always say practice in front of a mirror or practice with a friend that maybe can taunt you and treat you the way they've been treating you so that you suddenly respond differently. So that you suddenly don't, they can push your buttons and you're like, no, smile, say okay. Or in your voice say, okay, well, I'm going to let you go now. Trust me. Suddenly the conversation is guided. Suddenly they realize like, okay, wow, she's changed. He's changed. He's not the same. This no longer matters. Let me tell you something. The opposite of love is not hate. Did you know the opposite of love is indifference? Think about that. Are you indifferent? Or are you hating? Which means you're still caring. Cast your cares unto the Lord. So again, practice, tell a friend, and avoid questions. Don't ask them. If you don't want them to be asked to you, don't ask them. And if they are asking, avoid them. Say, no, I'm not going to answer that. I'm very protective of my life. I'm very private. Things that I'm choosing to tell you is because I feel that it's time. I'm choosing to tell you, and the individuals know as well that it's something I was going to share, like something in my life I'm going to share as, for testimony. But I'm very protected, especially while I'm living them. I'm going through something, I don't want to be just sharing it. So therefore, you guide the conversation. If there's things that you feel like, I'm not going to give them ammunition, ammo to them, well, then don't answer the question. Again, smile or say, I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to ask you that, and I'm not going to answer that either. You guide the conversation. Put boundaries. And number 5, I mentioned in the beginning, and it's true, they do work. But when you put them, respect them too. Don't go picking up the snake and then wonder, why is it biting me and it hurts? Mind you, snakes have poison, right? Then I have people who taunt the snake, and then they get upset when it bites. And they always say, well, why were you taunting the snake? Right? And this is very symbolic, but it's true. You go taunting the person and you know that they're poison, and you go throw a smart remark, but then you get hurt like, how dare they say that to me? How dare they treat me that way? Don't bother. Why? Go home and be happy. Make your own world a safety place. Be happy. So don't do that. Put your boundaries and respect them. Don't ask them those questions. Don't receive those questions. And if you say, we're only going to speak about this, only speak about that, and only at this times, and only with this tone of voice and with this way. And the way I did it with my ex-husband is, at the beginning he would call and say, especially when he was not mentally there, when he had something in his system, it would be very like aggressive. And I would just say, I have to let you go right now because right now you're not okay. And just go. I don't need to dwell on that or to explain that or to call him any names. I don't need to say, oh, you're being this. How dare. No. That's not my place. I release them. So I just say, you're coming into my world, so I'm going to let you go, release you back because you're not okay. Or if he would ever contact me and say, hey, what's up? Or hey, like buddy buddies. Hi, how are you? How are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. I had to get the conversation where now when he calls me, he knows like, hi, Yenni, how are you? Exactly. I want you to treat me with respect, so I'm going to give you respect. It wasn't that he brought respect to the table because it's not about him being healthy. If it's not or not, I can't worry about him. In that sense, I bless him, and whenever I can, I do give him the word. And he knows that. He accepts that. It's about me being healthy. It's not about the person. It's about me being healthy, right? So it's about me giving respect, right? And guiding that conversation. And nowadays, when he communicates, it is healthier. It is, hi, Yenni, how are you? Or, hi, Yenni. Because we're not buddy-buddies, and I'm not somebody you can just, disrespect. He knows that. There will be no communication at all if he does. So as I keep saying it, if I can do it in such a difficult situation, so can you, no matter what situation you're with or with who. Never incite anger. It's in the Word of God too. Just don't. It's in Ephesians, by the way, but just don't. Whether you're a child or with anybody, don't incite anger. That's not our purpose. That's not the reason why we were created at all. There's a greater purpose for us. And it's to literally reflect Jesus in everything we do. You can choose to be that way, or you could choose to be that way. You still are. Again, I guarantee you, you're still going to be going in cycles. Or you can break those cycles and live up in a way that you feel peace when you hang up the phone or when you come home from work and say, that's not my, to be carrying, my pain to be carrying. That's for them. I pray over them. And if you have children, I have to leave with this. Never use your children as leverage. Don't. Again, if you can manage that, maybe your partnership, your relationship was awful, but you can work together so that at least your children can be healthier individuals in the way you've been, healthier than I've been. I always say I want my son to be. Do it. You are their role model, right? You want them to be healthy adults. Then teach them how to be that. Teach them how you've never been. Teach them to be how you've always wanted to be. And again, it goes back to the Word. For me, it goes back to the Word of God. You can choose however you want to choose, but even in philosophy books, you'll find this. In psychology books, you'll find this. Go ahead and buy all the ones you want. They were going to tell you the same thing. Honestly, it's about your change. So let's do this together. I haven't perfected it. Trust me, there's days that I hang up and I'm like, oh, Jesus. Not only with him, but with other people. I may snap, or I may answer the wrong way, or I may, a fear comes up. And so it still happens. It does. But at least I'm aware of it. At least I come back and say, oh, Yenni, no. No. If I come to that situation again, I will be this way. And that's a difference. I can't dwell on it, but I'm not going to live a cycle either. I'm breaking that cycle. So I say, let's do it together. Let's break the cycles and let's be amazing humans, like the way God intended us for us to be.